So what is up, guys? You got your boy Stingren here today, and today we are back with some reverse 1999 content, and today we're going to be doing a bit of a tier list for you guys here today. We're revamping our old tier list that we did that was around patch 1.3. So around patch 1.3, I made my first initial tier list. It was just ranking all the characters from patch 1.0, patch 1.3. And as I explained earlier, the same rules do apply to this tier list. Basically, I don't want this to be any sort of, definitive tier list of reverse 1999 as held by any community standard. I think it's just me just kind of talking about how I feel about every unit, and of course I do like to get into conversations about how a unit is performing in the game, whether it not be by me or by other players, because while I may not see a character as viable or good, another person could easily say that, hey, I've been having a lot of success with this character, and I can say, oh really, could you elaborate, and stuff like that. Now, I will be talking about the main game mode, which is traditionally, I think, the best way you can really describe a character's performance right now is either Limbo or Raid. I don't really like to count UTTU because you can buff the character really well with fame cards, thus making them seem a lot better. So I don't think I want to factor UTTU in this situation. I think I just want to look at a character just raw kit, mostly at P0. For 5 stars, I will mention just in case if they are P5, since they are a little bit more easier to pull. Just only a tiny bit though, however. So I think I will talk about that. There was a tier list that had all the 1.6 characters. I couldn't find them, so I had to settle for one that was up to patch 1.9, which is where CN is currently. So if you see some faces you don't know yet, I won't rank them because I'm only going to focus up to where we are currently, which is patch 1.6. But I will include patch 1.7 because that is going to be the next patch, and that's going to be in July. And I wanted the list to last for a little bit. I didn't want to come back the very next month over and say, well guys, these are the new characters and this is how they're going to rank. But anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and let's talk about the tier list and where I think each character ranks. So the first character on this list is none other than our tried and true Sonato. I do think tried and true Sonato is always going to be in the easily worth the team slot option in S tier. Now the reason why I say is because one, you can get her to P5 for absolutely for free, which helps a lot, and she is pretty much just a good sustainable buffer. She's pretty much like a baby Anali, where she can buff up damage dealt, damage taken reduction, which is always very helpful. She also has the ability to disarm, which can help with crowd controlling the enemies, which is pretty, useful depending if you have somebody that's going to attack like 3 times and somebody has attacked 1 time. You can easily disarm the 3 attacking target and then you'd be fine. Now there are some stages in the game where the enemies are just straight up immune to crowd control effects, but I mean it's still considerable that Sonato, which unironically starts with S, is still worth using in most teams, especially if you're just starting out. It's literally you start with her, so there's no way you can't say, oh, I don't have Sonato yet, it'll be great. So yeah, you literally start her and you progress through the story and you can get her to P5, so that's really good. Anyway, so yeah, that's just that. Anyway, first things first is Balloon Party. I'm gonna put Balloon Party in good. Balloon Party's good. I mean, there's nothing really too negative I can say about Balloon Party. There's been a point of time where I used to think that Balloon Party's form of healing is actively the worst form of healing in the game, but that opinion has since changed due to situations like Raid, where bosses can really hurt you very hard in a singular turn, and then Balloon Party heal starts to do like 3-4k heals because of all the damage you just took. So effectively, Balloon Party does actually shine in some raids, Marsh Creation being one of the ones that she's actually very good because she does get the 20% HP boost because of its condition. But yeah, and the fact that she can pop a healing balloon, she can give counter, which can help chip away a little bit at the enemies. Of course, you're not going to be using her primarily for any form of damaging, but at least she's still decent enough to be putting in a team for healing. She's still one of my main second go-to healers when I use her in Limbo, because again, she still does the job just fine. However, I do think that job has been replaced by Yensei now because she's new and she's a 5-star healer. But of course, I will talk about that when I talk about Yensei. So the next character is going to be Necrologist. Now, Necrologist is, if you have her P0, she's just good. She's just good. I think that's just what it is. The prayer effect on all team members, which basically prevents you from dying, is incredibly clutch in certain situations. Raid being one of the biggest ones, because there's been a lot of times in Raid where I've effectively done fights and I've been put in situations where I don't plan out my turns properly. I know that's skill issue on my part, but I end up dying and I'm like, oh man, dang, I thought I was gonna survive, I was gonna be fine. But with prayer, it gives you a second chance at life, which is really, really good. And if you have her at P5, oh, she's super S tier. She's super S tier, because 50% damage boost is the current highest damaging boost that you can get in the game, which is kind of insane. And it goes really, really good on certain teams in Raid. I think one of the best examples of this is Lilia, who doesn't take up that many buff slots. So you can pass her a 50% damage boost and really amplify her own damage. Really, most of your DPSs that really want that don't take up a lot of buff space can really use that effect and really get that strong damaging output. It's much stronger than Pickles, and she's the more preferred comfortable option comparably to Pickles if you need to dispel. I think the only other option, or the only other time that you use Pickles over Necrologist for, you know, her ability to dispel and buff damage, since they effectively do the same at P0, is the fact that Pickles can dispel everything, which does help against Marsh Creation, who has a corrode shield, and she can't dispel the corrode shield. That's really just the only thing. But everything else that Marsh Creation buffs itself with on every turn, she can dispel. So unless you want to deal with the corrode, which I've seen some people say it's just fine, I don't think so. I don't like taking that much damage. It works. It works, honestly. I do think Necro is definitely S tier if you get her up to P5 because of how strong that damage boost is, the ability to protect yourself from death. Dispelling is always useful. Her first attack having penetration rate is also useful as well, so she can hit just a tiny bit more harder, but that's really not important since she's going to be more so support. And in fact, if you can really maintain your prayer stacks on everybody, or your prayer buff on everyone, I should say, it's not a stack, then it basically means you get a free heal, which combines very well with things like her second life or anything like that. So it just gives you like a really nice effective heal. So I mean, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Next up we have is DK. DK is gonna go into niche could work. Now I don't think no every 5-star is bad in the game. It's just DK is trying to do two things that just don't work. That's one, being a healer, and two, trying to deal damage. Now, let's talk about DK's first problem, her healing. Now, DK's healing is otherwise okay, especially in the beginning to mid game. However, the biggest problem with DK's healing is that she gets a stronger heal when you fall below 50%, which normally isn't technically a bad thing, because you know, you really want to start considering heals around like the 50-60% mark where your character started to look a little low, so that way you don't fall into a situation where they could die. But the amount of times I've ever really felt the need to heal below 50% is super low compared to just somebody who can just heal effectively without having to worry about no such restriction. Now, given that both her and Balloon Party both have restrictions, I feel like Balloon Party's restriction of having to take damage to make your heals more potent comes up a lot more often than having to do 50%, because there are again some fights that just don't hit as hard, so DK can't perform just as well, and there are some that hit just way too hard where DK may have a hard time keeping up. So she's not in that good balance. Like, one of the biggest examples I used for validating Balloon Party's heal was Marsh Creation, the raid. And the fact that Marsh Creation hits you so hard, so quick, especially once it gets to the later bars of its health, then that values Balloon Party's healing, because you can heal more. But with DK, the fact that you either get hit not hard enough to where you worry about it, or you get too hard enough, has been the kind of auto stone that I've had with content so far. But it's not to say that you can't make her work. That says that. Damage potential isn't that great. I have mine at P5, and I still be like, you know, it's useful. I mean, I don't really use her anymore, but when I did use her, it was like, it's alright, it's fine, passable, but not enough for me. Not enough for me to validate giving up a team slot for her. Alright, next character is going to be Beaconborn. Beaconborn is always going to go into the good tier because of her being one of the most potent reality debuffers we have, and she's still a very good solid DPS at P5. So Beaconborn's very good. I could actually even say she's actually technically worth an S tier, because reality debuff is really going off right now due to a certain somebody who just released into the game, and then certain someone else who might know. I don't know why I'm talking about this, but I think she's either between 8 here. She's either A or an S slot. I think more so A than S. I think it's more so like kind of in there. It's like high A, low S for me. Like if I were to really break it down into ranking. But her being a reality damage debuffer is very good. She also has increased damage dealt, which benefits everyone, which is very good. I do think her own personal damage output is okay, especially for someone who's not really trying to be the DPS, as she quotes all the time that she's the quote-unquote support staff of the game. But I do think that Beaconborn is fine. There's not really too much negative I can say about Beaconborn, honestly, or Beacon Bloom. I don't know if I'm saying her name wrong. If I'm saying it wrong, I'm sorry. But yeah, there's not really too much I can say negative about the character. It's just she's fine. She does what she needs to do. Good reality debuffer. Decent damage output. That's all you really need on a team. Next up is going to be, I keep scrolling down super far, Baby Blue. Now Baby Blue I'm gonna put in decent. It's decent because she is a strong mental debuffer, and that's about it. The biggest problem with Baby Blue is that she doesn't have the same luxury as Beaconborn. Beaconborn has the ability to do both reality damage debuff and damage dealt up in one singular card. Beaconborn is flexible in that regard. Baby Blue, however, can't do that. She can only ever do mental debuff or damage increase on 2 separate cards, which one makes her AP, which makes her go AP negative, which is never good, especially if you're a support. So even by that metric, that's already bad. So yeah, that's really just it. So I mean, it's decent if you really want a mental debuffer, which there's some valid reason to have one right now in the game, because there's some decent mental damage DPSs. Like we have Kanabana, Menalia, 37. You know, there's some good units out there that can really utilize the mental debuff for extra damage gain. But again, it's not really worth when you really have to balance her debuffs as hard as you do. Like for example, with Beaconborn, you don't really have to manage as much. You can sit on a couple of her debuffs, apply them when ready, and then, you know, burst down. You know, with her, you have to keep them both juggling at least somewhat oftenly, because she has to put them both up on different turns, or even on the same turn, which could set you back in terms of DPSing or building up Moxie for your main carry, for example. So that's why I don't think she's, and that's why I only think she's like just decent, but I don't think she's worth too much of a team slot option for me. Charlie goes into the good tier. I don't think there's nothing really wrong with Charlie. She's a decent star DPS, especially if you really get up her portraits. The biggest problem with Charlie is that she does need the portrait. I think she's probably the biggest offender of needing a portrait. Like, she's one of the biggest offenders, because most people say you should get her to P3, because that otherwise makes her condition really good. If she's P0, she's down here for sure. Because the biggest problem with Charlie is that she wants to be below a certain amount of HP before her attacks start to deal more damage, which, you know, is a pretty cool crisis ability, you know, for a character. But with P3, that condition gets changed to 80%, which is way more manageable. I mean, going down to 50% effectively can take some turns, depending on the fight at hand. Like, if it's just regular mobs or anything, you may not necessarily ever fall below 50% if you're protecting your team. So yeah, but if she's above P3, she definitely goes up into the good tier and easily worth a slot, because she is actually a pretty decent star DPS. But there's that. Sweetheart, I think Sweetheart goes into niche. Not a bad DPS at all. She's a pretty decent modifier, especially at P5. But other than that, you know, pretty decent. Click, decent to other options exist. I don't really think there's nothing too much I can say about Click. I mean, the Moxie disruption thing is cool. You know, I think that's the only thing I can really say about Click that I find that's worth mentioning. But other than that, it's like X is niche. Matilda, but why? The problem with Matilda is that she doesn't really do anything, and she's currently the only character that's locked into getting her portraits. You can't get no copies of Matilda anywhere. You can't pull them on the banner. So you can only ever give them if the devs just say, hey, here's a Matilda portrait. I hope you like it. Which they did that recently on CN's anniversary, which congratulations for 1 year for CN, by the way. Let's give it up for CN, by the way. Let's give it up for CN. But the biggest problem is a 5-star character really shines in relevancy once you get more portraits, considering how easy it is. Some are just good to use out the gate, but Matilda is just not one of those characters. She's obviously a old, dated character, so portraits would make her seem a little bit more better, but the fact that you can't get any of them unless she has some type of, you know, special giveaway or something is a little disappointing, to say the least. But again, not really worth putting in your team. Tanat's not bad. Like, Tanat's pretty decent. I've seen some pretty nutty things with Tanat. But other than that, not bad. I mean, the whole bullet gimmick is not bad at all. Diggers is super niche, bro. I mean, he was the first example of an Omni debuffer. For what it's worth, he was the first example of that, which was cool. That was cool for a point in time. For a point in time, that was kind of cool. But that usefulness ran out very quick. Like, that's about all he does. So yeah. Anyway, Satsuki is only decent. I think only decent for Satsuki. I think that's only really the only thing that's about worth. Baloney, niche DPS. Horpedia, same, niche. Conjurer's niche, exactly for the reason that you don't have Soul to be. That's about it. Desert Flannel almost goes into decent, actually. Like, Mono Beast, Desert Flannel actually is a pretty decent slot. Like, especially if you even get her with more portraits, she's not half bad, actually. I've seen some pretty good builds with Desert Flannel, actually. Like, not even being funny, like, not even being, like, mean. Like, it's actually, you know, decent. Ulu, ooh, boy. This one hurts, honestly, for being one of the characters that I love in this tier list that's coming up. But, she's just not good for what she's supposed to do. A low buff of 20%, which is sad. Burn stacks, which are very, very, very niche at the moment. They're not that good at the moment. The fact that how burn is calculated at this current moment of time really hurts the performance of Ulu, because since burn acts as an effect that takes away half its total stacks instead of just one, it's very hard to accumulate burn, but we'll talk about that more later, which ruins the effectiveness of burn altogether. So there's that. Sotheby is niche as well. I know it's kind of low to put Sotheby here when there's like 6 and 5 stars here, but again, Sotheby's only real use is for Jessica. That's it. Like, you don't really take Sotheby on your own teams unless it's, you know, specifically a gimmick that requires poison, which again is more so UTTU2. Like last UTTU, Sotheby was goated because of her ability just to put up a lot of poison quickly. But obviously, since we're not factoring things like UTTU, this doesn't really work. So yeah, I think that's really the only thing. Her heal also isn't that good. One thing I've learned most recently about healers is healers can crit their heals, right? Since Sotheby only gives you regen, like a cure effect, you can't never crit cure, which is kind of bad. And a little bit, that's a little bad. So, Alright, next up is Yensei. Yensei is super S tier. Even at just P0, she's very good. Her heals are very potent. Surprisingly, I didn't think that Yensei's heals would be that potent, but they are. They're very good at just P0. Especially if you went crazy on Judyon's banner, you should have her high portray. But yeah, sturdiness on the targeted enemy is also very good just to help with mitigation. Her shields are also very thick, like very thick. Now granted, I don't think shielders are as important like for a role, but that extra cushion of damage is really good. Also, Yensei does provide you with a single target damage dealt to boost up that she can just put on 2-star cast of her card, which she can actually rank up into really good with her passive effect. So yeah, there's not a lot negative I can say about Yensei at all, if any. Like, I don't think there's really anything negative I can say about Yensei. I think she's a fantastic 5-star, and if you did pull her, she is effectively the replacement to Bloom Party as the second healer for most content now. So there's that. Regulus is still pretty decent. I still vibe. Misty Babble is definitely niche because again, tankers aren't really needed in the game. Like, I don't think tankers are really needed all that much. I mean, there are certain situations where it does work. The most recent roguelike mode saw Miss New Babel actually being a very viable unit, especially with certain setups. But again, since that is effectively counting conditions that can buff your character outside of their own kit, it does kind of question the viability of the character altogether. But again, that's really just one of the only things I can ever really say about Miss New Babel. She's also pretty decent in certain stages that attack you a lot of times. Like, I've seen people use New Babel in the raid that came up, the one that's in 1.6 against the Matrix Dream, because the reason why is because since the hands attack you so many times, you can just target herself with her taunt ability. That's a lot of counters you can get, which of course can fuel 37, which of course is a popular combination of teams because of just how many times you counter, because it effectively counts as an extra action, which gives 37 plus 1 Eureka. So that's a niche thing there. But in terms of being her overall unit, you don't really need Miss New Babel. It's just options, of course. Lilia, yeah. This pains me to say this too. Oh boy, this is not a good look so far. But Lilia is kind of in the same boat as Babel for niche reasons. Again, being a Eureka bot to 37, I think that's just what it is. Her own personal DPS is not as good as it used to be, so it's not that good anymore. But really the big thing is just helping 37 get off more Eureka, and even now she's been outclassed in that by a future unit that we'll talk about. So yeah, unfortunate. Voyager, Voyager, I think Voyager's niche too, because I think it's the same thing as New Babel as being a tanker. I know, man, there's not really too many reasons you want to use a tanker ever. Like, I mean, actually, I mean, Seal is cool and all, but nah, I don't think it's really worth. Eternity, yeah, she's low too. She's been super outclassed now. It's just the fact that Eternity doesn't really do anything, but I'm willing to give it the fact that she at least does have the ability to self-heal herself and buff her own stats without needing a buffer, which makes her kind of, you know, comfortable to fit in teams since you don't necessarily need a buffer. But other than that, Druvis is about the same. Centurion still hangs in there. There is a much better option, but other than that, she still kind of hangs. There's not really much negative. Ana Lee is definitely going to be an S tier unit. You can't really say nothing negative too much about Ana Lee these days. Even still, she still has a very cool condition where she can rank up her furthest right card, which of course is a really good way to set yourself up into a 2-star or a 3-star buff, or even a 3-star daze if you really want to get some crowd control in there. Her ultimate also gives her +1 empower incantation, which again is very good because you can even go from a 1-star to a 3-star card in a singular turn, depending on if you're in exorcism mode or not, which is kind of nice. I mean, that's kind of nice, all things considered, like all jokes aside. Pretty good. And she's also really good into like AoE situations, like certain raids. I don't think she's that good for Gorgon due to how annoying it is, but you know, the Matrix Dream raid, she was actually pretty decent there, and you can actually see my video of me using her there. Medicine Pocket's still good. I mean, that's a Knight. Medicine Pocket's still good. Can't complain. Still a solid healer, easily worth the slot. That's definitely going in here to here. She does provide single target damage boost as well. I think she has a daze effect on her ultimate, which is not bad for crowd control. But yeah, not bad at all. A Knight's still good. Can't complain about a Knight. He also got a pretty nice buff, and he got a pretty nice buff with the new cube. The what was it called? I can't remember. Balance Please, there it is. I couldn't remember it, but Balance Please was really good for him, which really helped him against matchups against things with elements like Beast, like Plant, like Star, because it gives him effectively a bigger boost of damage. So not bad, not bad. Melania is definitely an S tier unit. She's definitely an S tier. Not broken or replaceable, no, let's not say that. But definitely very good. Very good with Moxie control, which is very good. She can also really amplify her ultimate. She's also really good for certain raids, like Gold in the Cave, and I think Gold in the Cave is probably her best raid. And the reason why I say that is because since the fight gives you +1 Moxie if you fulfill debuffs, with her ability to steal Moxie as well, she can chain ultimates really quick. If she had an ability like Ali to buff her own card, like give her some Empower Incantation, like you can technically do that with another character that's kind of coming up. You can really force fill her Moxie gauge very quickly to just go ultimate. And that's really cool. I know that's kind of more so fitting into a certain gimmick, but still, it still helps out very well. So yeah. Pickles is still pretty good. Pickles is good. I mean, Omni Dispeller, check. Can buff damage up to, I think it's up to 4 turns for 30%, check again. If you get him up to P2, which we won't really factor into the ranking very much, it's 40%, which is almost as high as Necrologist, who's just 50%. But the reason why I say Necro is higher, because Pickles being able to dispel everything doesn't come up as much as just being able to just dispel positive statuses and positive effects. That's really just it. Like, the Corrode Shield is the only thing that stops Necro, I feel, which that's about it. So, but yeah. Jessica is definitely still an S tier unit. Still a very solid DPS. Can't complain. Two Fairy. Oh, you know where she's going. Broken to unreplaceable. Now the problem that Two Fairy the reason why Two Fairy is unreplaceable, there's no other real 6-star healer that's like her. I mean, yes, we have Medicine Pocket, but Two Fairy provides so much value to the team because she can lower crit resistance and lower crit defense. Like, you know how many DPSs love to just have that just on standby? And the fact that she effectively doesn't have to take action for her Two Fairy stacks to gather, like her baby teeth effect. All you have to do is just get 5 or more stacks by using other people's actions. And again, her heals are just very powerful and very potent. And she does have the ability over most healers to heal for more crit, because you can technically spot her into crit with certain cards like Beyond Wonderland, which is actually a card that did feature with her event. So you can actually get more effectiveness for crit healing that way. She also has the ability to dispel all debuffs off you if she can crit an ultimate, which again kind of warrants more reason to run Beyond Wonderland, honestly, because you have a better chance to crit. But yeah, that's just good. That's just very good. Like she's definitely unreplaceable. Like, in terms of being a DPS, definitely unreplaceable. Shaman's gonna go into decent. The options exist. Shaman's not bad. Again, being a better version of Diggers, being able to Omni debuff for 15% on both statuses and then give damage dealt up in one card is very convenient, and he does have decent sub DPS opportunities. However, that Omni debuff of his isn't that great. Now, the fact that it's only 15% when both Beacorn and Baby Blue have 30% respectively, and another character that comes up has 20%, does kind of make Shaman a little not worth to use. The damage dealt up effect is nice, but again, another character just completely outclasses him in that regard. And his sub DPS opportunity is only valuable for, you know, if you just wanted to have someone who can hit a little hard. But again, another character that comes up kind of beats him in that regard as well. So there's just not a lot going on for Shaman. Like, I feel like if he was 20%, that he would at least have viability somewhere else, maybe. But other than that, no. I mean, I think you can even technically get away with using him in the Iverson raid, which is against him and a giant robot. which is the plant raid, since he doesn't he technically has type boost. But other than that, not really much reason to use him. Kanabala, she's definitely still S tier. Definitely still a very good mineral DPS. So there's that. 37. I damn near want to put her in unreplaceable. And the reason why I want to put 37 up here is not for the fact that she has so much going for her, is that she continuously gets so much for her. That's the problem. She gets something new to mess around with every single patch. Even going forward, she will get something new that helps her perform her job of being sub 2 main DPS better. Let's talk about it. Patch 1.6, who did she get? Junyanza, who triggers way more follow-ups than Lilia, which makes 37 do what? Follow up more times. Patch 1.7, she gets Isore, which is technically a buff to everybody, so that doesn't really help. But she also does have a trigger follow-up, so yeah. Patch 1.8, she got a new healer that can buff mental damage. I mean, she's literally the golden child of this game. This might be a take. This might be something that be like, oh my god, that's kind of bad to take. But nah, man. I really think that 37 is the golden child of this game. Like I've said this numerous times before, where I just think that 37 literally is just gonna be that one unit who continues to have new support to make them better as an overall character. And with the game being like Reverse 1999, where it's mostly team-based that can provide better use for characters, then that's why I do think she deserves the unreplaceable spot in most teams, because she just gets so much. I mean, the only thing you don't want to use her on is like content that's not effective against Star, but other than that, it's yeah. 6, he's going up here too. Again, being able to buff and debuff and deal sub DPS and have a heal, not a heal, but a regen buff, all in one character? Come on, man. Come on, dude. Like, we were just talking about Shaman and his ability to not do enough. He does too much. 6 does too freaking much, dude. 6 has access to just about everything. I mean, the only thing he can't do is what? I think what shields, I think? Yes, I think like the little, the yellow, the little white bar shields that some characters can put up, like Yensei, for example. But other than that, that's about it. Like, that's about it, dude. And that's insane. That is actually insane. He also can empower your incantation if you get 5 or more stacks and you just pop any one buff of his card to a character. So that means giving any character effectively a +1 in their buff cards, which we were just talking about with Menalia earlier with the whole Moxie stealing train thing, or certain characters that just want that extra damage boost on demand. There's just no world where I can just say, hey, 6 isn't all that good. Like, I would have to be coping to say that this man is not that good. Smalthea goes in good. She's definitely S tier. Definitely S tier. She's almost here. She's almost broken tier. The reason why she's almost broken because she just hasn't received her real support yet. Haha, rip Ulu. But anyway, Smalthea is really good because she could just put out a tremendous amount of damage, especially with her ability to have a lot of extra crit damage built into her kit, which makes her hit some really dummy numbers. Of course, if you do factor in raid, the Irison raid, she literally melts this raid because of the gimmick of the fight, it being weak to beast, and the fact that it takes an extra 75% damage boost whenever you expose its true form, which is, the bot ran out of energy. She melts this raid. But most single target fights I've ever used with Smalthea, even without the the gimmick in hand, she just melts. She melts a lot of fights because of just how strong she can hit. But Smalthea faces one major problem, is that she needs 15 or more stacks to really get that extra damage from her ultimate. And as it stands right now, in the way that the game is being played, it's very hard to get 15 stacks. Not without some sort of extra gimmick giving you stacks. Even if you use Ulu, who is her designated partner, it's still hard because Ulu only gives you 3 stacks per turn, and you would have to rely on Spahothiya critting on her attacks, which means you may have to give up, you may have to forbade buffing, which is her normal optimal rotation, which you would normally just buff, attack, go on from there, and proceed to just go about your day until you build up her ultimate, and then you can hopefully have enough stacks. But and then even then, if you try to fit Ulu in there, you can at least maybe try to use a couple of her debuff cards, which only puts up to 1 to 3 stacks depending on the star value of the card. So it's a thing that can work, yeah, but it's just very inconsistent on how it wants to work, and it's not just brain dead easy compared to other characters. And that's the thing that kind of holds her back from being like the ultimate tier of S plus tier for me. Urza. I mean, Urza's like, it's hard for me to rank Urza because while I do think he's a decent, good unit for raid, he's ideally the raid unit. That's what I feel like Urza is. I feel like he's really good because of his ability to debuff crit defense and buff up critical damage, which of course helps out your main DPSs tremendously well. The problem is that that's the only thing you can really say about Urza. You don't really use Urza anywhere else. You don't use him in Limbo. You don't use him in, well, I mean, you could use him in UGT if it had some type of cool condition behind it, but Raid is really his home ground. That's kind of his home ground. Like, there's a lot of raids out there that have top scores because of Urza. That's really just it. I mean, me personally, like looking at his kit, I'm not a big fan of having to wait the 2 additional turns or having to just use Eureka to force level up the shrooms every other turn to untime the effects. You know what I mean? I'm not a big fan. I like my buffs to just go up instantly. If I use 6, I want him just to buff me right away. You know what I mean? It's something like that. But the fact that Urza has to wait a turn at most if you have the Eureka filled for him so he can plant the mushroom, and then you have to do that. Ultimate does help with accelerating mushrooms, which can set up some nice DPS values. But other than that, I like, it's kind of hard to really justify Urza at the moment. Like, it's kind of hard. Like, kind of hard. Junianza, yeah, broken. We don't really need to explain. I mean, insane level of follow-up damage, very good follow-up actions, like a very strong ultimate that also can change up based on the amount of enemies that's on the field, which is very good. A lot of AoE ultimates do struggle with that, with not having a multiplier that can change, but the fact that hers changes with enemies and without is pretty darn strong. G-Titan's very good. Very good character. He is the premier reality debuffer in patch 1.6 over Beaconborn for sure, or over anyone else. He's definitely a way better option than Shaman, because he does have an array effect that also can further reduce critical defense, which is very valuable, and he also debuffs reality defense, which is valuable, and they give more damage up, which is again valuable. So there's a lot of things about G-Titan that makes him worth using in a team. So yeah, like there's no reason why you don't really want to use him, especially if he has his reality debuff, which of course can go with anyone that does reality based damage. And yeah, now we're gonna talk about the two 1.7 characters. Isolde is gonna go in broken. She's so good, dude. I mean, the fact that she's also a reality damage debuffer who comes quite literally after G-Titan is kind of funny. The only thing is they technically do have synergy, because at least G-Titan does have the array field where he can do the critical effect of damage and stuff. But Isolde effectively takes over as the new best reality debuffer, and she fixes Spahotia's problem. As I mentioned before, Spahotia's biggest problem is that it's pretty hard to get 15 or more stacks of burn, right? That's difficult. Pretty difficult. However, with Spahotia and with Isolde, she has the ability to allow everyone to put burn stacks if they attack into the target. Guess what that means for Spahotia? That means it becomes super easy to get the 15 stacks needed. It becomes super easy for her to just start doing ultimate at her best value because she can always have the 15 stacks of burn. So yeah, Isolde is a top tier unit. She does very good damage. She also has a very strong follow up. She also gives rousing morale to all allies too, which is really rare. You don't really see too many units rousing morale. I think a Knight also does it, but I think he only does it if he kills someone with his ultimate. I can't remember. But other than that, dude, like rousing, I think he just gives it to himself actually, now that I think about it. But rousing morale only to self, but she gives it to everyone. And that's just insane. Her follow-up is very strong. She does pretty decent DPS over the course of every start of her turn, which can really help in manipulating numbers for like add-ons and stuff. So yeah, she's fantastic, dude. She's the real deal. She's a real deal spirit support. I feel like some people might skip G Titan for her, but I think you should maybe get both just for their synergy together because it's a really fun synergy with each other. But yeah. And Marcus is the other character that comes, and I'm gonna put her in S tier. She's definitely the more comfortable option to Jessica because Jessica needs a specific team to really utilize her best effect. And Isolde technically does buff Jessica, by the way. She buffs up really any reality DPS. I talked about Spawn because she gets the biggest benefit. But Marcus, she has a really cool gimmick in her effect where she can rank up her own cards by consuming her own Eureka stacks, which makes her damage output actually go a little bit better. So the more Eureka that you can build for Marcus, the effect of her building up her cards becomes a lot more valuable. So I do think that's actually really cool. I do think her own personal damage output is very good. And yeah, she can also self-generate cards similarly to Spahotia, which can of course help in ranking up more cards. So yeah, she can really build up a lot for herself, and that's actually really cool. But I do think I think she's the more easier to fit plant option DPS than Jessica. I feel like Jessica wants specific team, but Marcus can just be the sole DPS and doesn't need a secondary unit to really make herself shine, I feel. So there's that. But anyway, that is going to be the tier list. This is what we have ranked right now. This is what I feel is best. Again, I don't want this to be this is the best tier list and you can't say nothing otherwise. But other than that, this is me, everybody. Just see you guys next time. Peace.